We went down to survey these wrecks to get as much information as we could. From that information, we're looking to see what it can tell us. For Johnston, we actually learned more about what she did in the battle than histories could tell us.
Amazing up-close photographs and video of the deepwater shipwreck of the heroic World War II destroyer USS Johnston shocked the world. Because at over 4 miles down, it was the deepest shipwreck ever to be explored at that time. But it wasn't until the official computer-generated model of the shipwreck, the very model prepared for the U.S. Navy, was revealed on a recent episode of the video podcast Museum Ship Mafia, that we were finally able to grasp the complete scope of this iconic piece of World War II naval history. But if we're just meeting for the first time, my name is Ken Stano, and I am a World War II historian, mechanical engineer, and host of the video podcast Museum Ship Mafia, where, on a recent episode, Expedition Team Historian Park Stevenson thrilled us all by revealing the computer-generated model of the wreck of the USS Johnston he personally assembled for the U.S. Navy.
It's very interesting. I actually dove on the Johnston wreck and was sitting right next to her. And actually, it was that dive that really changed my life. I used all of the photos, not only the photos I took, and I took 500 photos out there. I caught some very key shots. I spent several months last year after Johnston doing the analysis and writing the wreck report for the Navy. I want to share this information with you guys. I was very surprised at how much more I learned about Johnston's battle on that day from the wreck. We went down to survey these wrecks, and we went down to get as much information as we could. From that information, we're looking to see what it can tell us. For Johnston, we actually learned more about what she did in the battle than histories could tell us. And down there in that deep was Johnston, sitting upright. One thing I was able to do with Johnston is I could see all of her damage. And what we have when we have a wreck like Johnston is we have a time capsule. That ship has not changed since 1944. In that deep of an ocean, lack of oxygen, lack of sea life, organisms, just the overall environment essentially preserves the ship. Johnston took enormous punishment. Very badly riddled, very badly damaged by the action on the surface. And the forward 2/3 of the ship are what we found in 2021. There's a CG model I did of the wreck. I'm going to show you what condition she's in. Sitting upright, buried in the sand up to her waterline, guns trained out, looking just as fierce as she did in 1944. .557 is just as clear and bright, almost as the day was painted. Looking at the wreck, I can tell that she broke in half right about where Yamato hit her. She was really torn up in that area, but she broke probably because of the damage that she took in that first salvo that wounded Johnston for the rest of the day. It appears that 1 or 2 of her depth charges detonated as she sank. This would have happened after the stern broke free of the bow section. The bow section was the forward 2/3 of the ship. During that first salvo from Yamato, she fired both her primary and secondary batteries. Primary batteries, 18-inch, hit farther aft. The secondary armament, 6-inch shells hit in this area. This is the port bridge wing, which I paid particular attention to because this is where Commander Evans was standing. The 6-inch shells hit in this area and killed a group of officers standing around Evans and injured Evans himself, peppered him with shrapnel, and he would fight the rest of the battle in that condition. One 6-inch shell went into Mount 42, the forward 40mm mount, started to fire there. That would eventually force the evacuation of the bridge. As I walk through the rest of the damage and align it with survivor reports, I start to see the pattern and the timing of hits. Lieutenant Hagen's after action report, he describes 3 hits, one into Radio Central in the superstructure, one into Mount 52, and one that knocked out Mount 51. He gives the time of 9:10. The one that knocked out Mount 51 that hit up into the forecastle, that was a plunging shot. We've got the hole on the forecastle deck, and then I have the trajectory down into the 5-inch magazine, which took out 51 from below. And this was right outside my viewport. I had to take a picture of that barrel just right at me. This one shows the hit on Mount 52. If you look at Mount 52, right outside the trainer's seat, you'll see a shell hole. This probably came from Yagi. That shell went right into Mount 52, right into the mount housing, right outside the trainer's seat. He probably never knew what hit him. It hit the 5-inch gun inside and exploded and blew out the back of the mount, which we can see here. It actually came across in an almost flat trajectory. It also went into the deck house below. That gave me a trajectory which allowed me to put it back to Yagi. These 2 mounts were actually disabled an hour before she actually sank. And from then on out, it was up to 53, 54, and 55. That's Mount 43, starboard side on Johnson. It looks like she took a shell right into her 40mm magazine there, which blew out the back part of that pedestal that the gun was on. What we're seeing here was a devastating blow at about 0940 when 2 shells hit in her forward boiler room. The uptake going up to the number 1 stack is blown out at the base of the stack, and the whole stack itself has canted back a few degrees and has basically collapsed into the galley, which is all gone. The other half of the stack is up in the debris field, several hundred meters away. And then she's just peppered with 5 and 6-inch shell holes that came from the destroyers and light cruisers that circled her at the end after Congo knocked her engines out. She lost all of her watertight integrity. So Johnston's bow is largely intact, but it's riddled full of holes. This is the port side of the bridge of Johnston. You can see shrapnel riddling the director housing. She took a blast on the left side that pushed her viewfinder tube out the right side. You can see it. You can see it where it was painted white on the interior of the viewfinder tube. You can see it angled out of the director housing there. Now, Lieutenant Bob Hagan, gunnery officer at Fort Johnston, and his crew were in that director until almost the very end, when the abandoned ship was called, and they left the director at that time. This hit would have been fatal to anybody left in the director, so that tells me this is one of the late hits after abandoned ship had already been called. Johnston took enormous punishment. We can see it in these wrecks. They were in a fight they were never meant to be in. And the fact that Johnston survived 3 18-inch shells is really a testament to the durability and the toughness of the Fletcher-class destroyers. They may have sunk, but there was meaning behind their sinking. And Hornfisher brought this out in Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors when he quoted Herman Wouk, who said, "The sight of these destroyers is an example of what America does when it does not have numerical superiority. This is a lesson our school children should learn and our enemies should ponder."
If you want to learn more about the deepwater discovery of the shipwreck of the celebrated World War II destroyer USS Johnston, check out this video. Finally, if you enjoyed this video, then why not lend your support by clicking like and also subscribing to this channel. My name is Ken Stano. Thank you for checking out History X.